Hello and welcome to the Make Dope Shit podcast. It's a series of interviews about making stuff. It's really that simple. Ultimately, I'm just sitting down with a bunch of artists and talking about their craft and whatever they do. Today's episode is with Jug. Jug is a Cincinnati-based music producer and a mad scientist of beats. He is someone who I would describe as obsessed with sound, a story that I think will set up this interview properly and kind of frame who Jug is as a person is that after we had recorded this interview, we sat down and we're kind of talking about what he'd been working on lately, and he was showing me some stuff, and we were looking through his project files. And so he has saved everything that he's made over the last, I think it was 15 years. And we did some rough estimations based on the size of his project files folder. And he has made somewhere in the ballpark of about 12,000 beats over the last 15 years. So if that doesn't tell you about the kind of person that Jug is, yeah, I don't really know what to tell you. It's kind of ridiculous. We met up to talk in his home studio and discussed everything from his approach to making music, how he got into music in the first place, and a whole bunch more. You can hit Jug up on Instagram at Jug Makes Music, or check out the links in the description to find any other relevant information. I think that's about it. Without any further ado, my conversation with Jug. So, Jug, what is up? What are you working on? How have you been?
Been good, Riley. I've been good. Honestly, bro, been working on a lot of music. Been working on a lot of new artists, upcoming artists, beats, just creating.
Hell yeah. And yeah, I mean, you just gave me a little snippet of some stuff out of the folder. And you were talking about, you're sitting on a bunch of stuff. What is the number of beats that you're sitting on that are just in a folder somewhere waiting to get used? Like not, the artist recorded something, it's going to be released soon, but like purely you've made something, you're like, this is sick, and you've put it in the bag for later usage.
Over 1,000.
I was gonna say, I heard a number a while back that was in that ballpark. So I wanted to ask about it. So how do you have that many beats that you're sitting on? Like what's your workflow look like to get that kind of a catalog of beats together?
So I've a little bit of background. I've been making beats for a long time, like almost 15 years. And it started out like, I wasn't good,
Mm-hmm.
but I've always beatboxed. I've always like made music in my head,
Mm-hmm.
basically. It's always been there. And when I was that young, I was like, damn, like I can take what I want from my brain and put it on real life, and then it comes out. And once I figured out how to use the software that I use, it was game over. Like my workflow is just, I hear music all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's whenever I have free time, I'm not working or doing stuff, but yeah, basically whenever I have free time, I could make 10, 15 beats a day. I could mass produce beats if I wanted to, but I don't do that like I used to. But like sometimes when you do that, like just, naturally your brain just wants to get into a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
So like your beats will all sound the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like you kind of want to get rid of that. And like I found that like if you make like 3 to 4 beats a day, you can keep, that creativity there without, sacrificing quality and all that shit.
Yeah. Without, do you think that when you were making, let's say like 10 to 15 beats a day, would you still like have like 3 or 4 favorites that would kind of make a cut, or like what was, what did it look like for you when you were making like 10 to 15 a day?
So like when it was like that, like I would find like a sound, like I'd make the first beat and that sound, that tone of that beat or whatever, that would make me want to make more like that. Well, then it just got to a point where like I would make so many, and then it would just be they'd all sound the same.
Yeah.
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like they're different variations, but
they all had the same kind of
yeah,
feel to
sort
them.
of and they were all sort of around the same BPM. You know, they all had they were all in the sort of same like chord progressions and things like that. But
so what was it that tipped you off and made you go like, oh, I need to, or I guess first, like, how long do you think you sat in that groove, right? Like kind of cutting your teeth, just like making a ton of beats every day. How long do you think you were like in that groove for? Or if it's an easier answer, when do you feel you got out of that groove?
a couple years ago.
Gotcha. So then what was the thing that like flipped that switch of like, oh,
Working with artists.
oh, interesting. So beforehand, it was just you were just making stuff for you.
Exactly.
Like it never. Did you ever like post anything online, or was it just sitting on a laptop somewhere?
I played around with posting my shit online, but not for real. Like literally within the last, what is it, 2023? It's 3 years.
Gotcha.
I've been like, you know how like we went from cathode tube fucking monitors on our screens to having AI in 20 years. Like literally we went from DSL to fucking almost super technology. That's how my beats went, dude. Like it went from dinosaur bones clacking together to fucking
from dinosaur era to AI beats.
AI level beat.
So what was it about like working with artists that that you think kind of triggered that? What was the thing that you noticed, or the things that you started seeing where you were like, oh yeah, maybe I am kind of sitting in the same, like, you know, playing it safe, staying in the same pocket?
Well, it's because everybody has their own how I would say like frequency, man. Like, you know, like everybody vibes at a different level.
Yeah.
But you know, you find the same people that kind of vibe in your frequency, but everybody like thinks differently. You know, everybody has their own sound, and all those things influence you and change how you think, literally, like you evolve.
So it was more of a just like being around other creatives.
Yeah,
you kind of
literally. Creative heads help tremendously.
Gotcha. What does your process look like working with an artist? Like, let's say somebody comes in here, they're like, hey, I want to make some heat. Like, what's the first thing you do?
I ask them if they want a catalog beat or if they want me to make them something. And it usually starts off like, oh, you made this beat, like, I like this one, we'll do this one. Usually because they play it safe. They're like, this one sounds fine. Like, I don't know how long it takes for him to make beats. I don't know, you know.
Yeah.
So they go through the catalog, pick one, they spit, and then you know, I throw it in, or it takes me like literally like 2 hours to finish a song. So that's from making it from scratch, recording it with the artist, and then mixing and digitally mastering it.
So then like they get that, what they, you know, they do the catalog, get a catalog beat, you know, what, you know, let's say next time they come back, they're like, they want to make something from scratch. Like, where do you start with an artist? Like, cause I do want to come back and talk about like that process when you're just on your own, alone in here. But like when you're working with an artist, when you're working with another creative, what are the things that you're looking for to get a song started?
Oh, like what am I looking for as in like to create the song, or
yeah, just like you're in here with an artist, you've got a blank slate. Like what's the first thing you're doing with that artist to start making a beat, to start making a song with them?
Oh, like
assuming you're starting
just starting like creating the beat from scratch.
Yeah.
Okay. Basically I kind of like ask what their vibe is. Like, do you like Future? Do you like, you know, Lil Uzi or whoever it is? You know, it could be Drake, it could be anybody. And then like I'll throw around a couple samples, like see what sounds good. And then I'll ask them, do they want it dark or light,
Mm.
like happy or upbeat or dark, and But yeah, and then from there I start making the beat, and then 99.9% of the time, unless it's like TV shows, no one really butts in on the beat making. They're not like, hey, I like this more than I like this. It's like by the time they hear what's happening, it's evolving so quickly.
They're just kind of watching it.
They're basically watching it happen.
Gotcha.
Before then.
It's like an AI.
It's more mesmerizing, I think.
Yeah, shout out TV shows.
Yeah, shout out.
So if you're working with him, like what's the kind of input that he's giving you, or what are the
he's a different animal. He's a totally different animal. He's awesome, dude. He's an amazing artist. He's gonna go great places. He's gonna build an empire, but man, he'd be screaming in the microphone, like he'll be like, I don't like that, or he'll be like, I need to do that 400 times. But no, he's got an amazing creative process, and I've learned.
Interesting. What's some of the stuff that you've picked up on like work? What's something that you've seen him do that you've gone like, oh, and just put that in your own tool set?
He just goes for things. You know what I mean? He sees it, he goes for it. Things like that. Like he's a different animal, man. I don't know, but like when I take things from him, like for example, like he'll be sitting here engineering his own song.
Hell yeah.
Like he'll be chopping up beats, and like he'll be chopping up his vocals and shit, like moving it and like doing all that shit, because he hears it in his head too. Like he sees it. And it's just cool because I can kind of see it too. Obviously you'll never see someone's full vision.
Yeah.
But like, I try to help in the best way I can, but he actually teaches me just a lot of things, and he's helped me meet a ton of people, so he's really cool.
Hell yeah. Okay. And then, so like, let's say you're in here, you've got the evening off, you're ready to cook up some beats. You had mentioned that you'll start with some samples, you'll play around with some stuff. Like what's kind of typically, is there a typical like first sound or thing that you're looking for that you'll like latch onto that you kind of build everything else off of? Or what do those initial moments look like when you're just playing around with sounds? Like what are the kind of pieces that you're looking for?
So it depends. It really depends. Sometimes I'll start off with a melody. Sometimes I will take a sample, or I'll listen to samples of melodies and pick them and throw them in. Sometimes I'll just start with a bass line. It all depends on how I'm going to structure the sound or the song. Like what do I want to be the carry of the song? Like, do I want the bass? Do I want the percussion? There's like elements to music like that people don't think about, like how bouncy is it, like how fat is it, how heavy is it, because songs are things that you can feel. You can feel music. It gets into your brain, it makes your spine tingle sometimes. You know how it works. But I don't know. It just really depends. It really depends on how I structure it, honestly.
Are you, will you sit down and determine that first? Will you go like, oh, I'm going to start with a bass line, or, oh, I'm going to start with a melody? Or do you just like seek it out in whatever instrumentation you're using? If that question makes sense.
I think I know what you mean. Honestly, I sit down sometimes, like I'll have an idea of what I want a beat. Like if I'm just making a beat by myself, right? I usually just sit there. I already know what I kind of want it to sound like. And then 9 times out of 10, I'll probably start with a melody. And like if I'm like keying it in on a board or a MIDI or something like that, like yeah, I'll start with a melody. And then off the melody I'll go into a light percussion to keep a count basically, without using a metronome. But and then I will build the bass line off of that. So I will build the bass line off of the percussion, and then I usually always just build my bass lines. But yeah, I mean, and then there's a whole lot of mixing that goes into the sounds, and I don't master my beats before I put them into Pro Tools for everybody out there that's listening to this.
So then I had a question and then I kind of lost where it went. That's been, I think I've said this with everybody that I've done this podcast with the exception of maybe one of them. It has been difficult to interview people because you have to really listen to somebody to be able to pick out the interesting things in the conversation that you want to follow along with. But then when you find something that you want to ask about, you can't just check out and hold on to that. You know what I mean? Like you can't just like, I'll catch something and go, oh, I want to ask about that. Fuck, I got to pay attention. I'm paying attention and I lose it. And I'm like, ah, shit, where'd that go? So it's this game of trying to balance attention and shit in the back of my mind. But okay, so then like, let's kind of take a step back to how you first got into music. Like you mentioned a little bit, you beatboxed. I think, do you play the drums? Right? Or am I making that up? Okay. Yeah. So like what was your first introduction into music of like any kind? Or let's say like playing, like making music of any kind.
Oh, like my first introduction into it?
Yeah. Whether it was drumming or beatboxing, or like what was the first thing that you like did to create music?
I think it was like I got on my grandma's piano.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, dude. Like it was just a really nice grand piano, and I fucked with it. So I would just like, I don't know, I'd play Christmas carols and things like that.
Hell yeah.
The easy shit in the books and shit. And I learned how to read music.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. So, and then I learned all the keys, obviously. And then when I like grew older, and I was like, damn, I just always like made sounds, and then it turned in the beatboxing. I got into beatboxing because I saw all these people, it started blowing up like around that time, and so people were like teaching other people on YouTube and shit, like how to do stuff. So I would learn all that shit, and then I would just make beats with my mouth.
Hell yeah. Did you ever record any of that? Do you have any like recordings of your beatboxing anywhere?
No. I could do it, but I'd have to drink some water. But yeah, it's something you never lose. But
how do you think that and so did you teach yourself like entirely with music, with piano?
Everything.
So then how do you think, or I guess, have you taken lessons of any kind for any sort of instrument?
Nope.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. I, played a bunch of guitar growing up, played like, some bass, some drums and shit like that, like just messing around. And then I took like classical guitar lessons and like kind of learned how to read music. Like I was never good enough to do anything without like sitting down and really fucking thinking about it. I could never sight read, but, yeah, I did that and then kind of like stopped playing. I'll still pick up a guitar from time to time, but like, yeah, I don't know,
I completely think stringed instruments are fucking crazy.
I think a guitar is easy mode compared to a piano.
Really?
100%, dude.
See, my brain doesn't think that
really
way. So my brother, he's an amazing artist, like, but he doesn't post anything or anything, but he can play any instrument that you throw in front of him. He's an amazing, like he could, if there were 5 of him, he could have a whole band and it would be more fire than metallic. He's that talented.
That's sick.
And but my brain doesn't wrap around the concept of stringed instruments. I mean, I kind of like can hear the sounds when I play the strings, but my fingers, you know, they're not, I didn't start young, so I don't have the callus and all that shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it would be like, I want to do it, but it would be hard.
Yeah.
It would be hard for me right now.
That's interesting that your brother does much music as well. Anybody else in your family?
No.
Really? Just
He
your
is,
brother.
I mean, he, like, when it comes to being a savant at music, it is him.
So what did his musical journey look like in comparison to yours? Like, where, as far as like timelines, like what was he doing while you were getting into stuff?
So he was at church. His dad was a musician. Like, he was always exposed to music. Yeah, and he was in a church band, and he did a lot of Christian stuff. And but he at home would just play. He would learn every single rock song and just play them. He listened to so much music, it was just insane. But he would play them all, like, back to you. And he has a voice, you know. He sings them all. He can sing in a lot of. I don't think he can hit like high sopranos or anything, but he could be a really good musician, man. Like,
that's funny that he doesn't put anything out. He just does it.
It blows my mind because at one time he had a band, like he was kind of going for it, and I was rooting for him, and he'd just fucking I don't know. You know, life hits us all. So.
Yeah. Do you think, I mean, did you guys ever like make anything together, or was it just kind of separate stuff that you were doing?
Yeah, separate. I mean, I was an engineer. Like, I was wanting to be an engineer. I wanted to be a master engineer. I wanted to be able to do everything. And he wanted to be the artist. He wanted to play the music live. He wanted to be in that moment. You know, he's doing the same thing that I can do, but I do it on a computer. He does it with his fingers.
Interesting.
And his mouth. You know what I mean? Like, he actually does the shit.
That's funny. That's funny that you both have kind of mirrored approaches to the same medium almost.
And it's crazy because, like, our family is, it's a separated family. So, like, my stepmom, she brought 4 kids, and they have different dads and stuff, you know, and we all come from different lineages. So, like, he's got a brother that has the same dad, but he's not musically talented. So, I mean, he listens to a lot of music, but he doesn't play any instruments. He doesn't do anything with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe he could. I don't know.
Yeah. He just hasn't.
And so, but him, he can, his brother, that brother can play the fucking instrument and do everything and all that shit. Me, I got into EDM and things like that. I wanted to make EDM music, and then it got into trap music, and then it got into rap, you know. I started hanging out with Pac.
Shout out Pac,
yeah.
How do you feel that understanding music at a like theory level, kind of the way you had to get into with the piano, how do you feel that that's influenced your beat making?
It's all helped. I mean, it's all played a part. Everything you need, every little bit that I learned, I use today, like, and then some. So, like, I don't know everything. There's still a shit ton to learn. And
there always will be.
But I personally feel comfortable saying I am a professional.
I think that's a fair statement.
That's a fair statement. I can do basically anything when it comes to audio engineering, you know, for a mainstream sort of thing. But you know, there's way more to learn, and I am always seeking new information. I'm always trying to learn new things when it comes to like for example, my interface, you know, I'm trying to get a better interface so I have better inverters and, you know, all that shit. I get a better sound so I can tweak it better. Maybe I'll learn something more off of that. And then it'll always continue. And I mean, it'll always continue because technology will always get better and things will change.
Yeah.
So will music.
Yeah, it'll evolve and there'll be new opportunities, and people will be making AI Drake albums, and
They're already doing.
yeah, I know. Shout out AI Drake.
Yeah.
But okay, and then so how are you, like, is there anything that you're doing with intention where, like, instead of sitting down and saying, okay, I'm going to make, you know, today's 3 or 4 beats, is there anything that you're sitting down and doing, like, this on the surface doesn't have any direct application to like making a beat, right? But it's something that you're doing as like an exercise to see what you can learn out of it. Is there anything like that you're working on, or anything kind of outside of the realm of you know, beat making as most may define it?
Oh, you mean like just making different like experimental things?
Yeah, or anything that you're doing with the intention of seeing what you can learn out of it, or seeing what you can pick up. That, like, you know, you're just like, this isn't like gonna become anything that goes into the catalog. You're just doing something to try shit and to learn something
all the time.
What are some of those things? Or what's the last one that you did, even if that's easier?
Like, I don't know, like I'll make really weird beats and like they're against the rules of how we do things, basically. You know, like most songs are structured specifically because that's just how it's supposed to be.
It's just how songs are structured.
You know, you can listen to a lot of songs, like a lot of mainstream songs, and they're all good for a reason. It's because they're all structured kind of the same way. You know, you got choruses, you got verses, you got all this shit. Sometimes I'll just make a beat that's just like a sound, and then it'll like be really long, and it'll start progressing into different sounds, and then like real ethereal, and then it'll dive into a bass line or something, and it'll just be like kind of, you know, one morphing sound that is a song. But things like that. Or I'll take I'll do kind of like I'll take a bunch of samples and I'll make almost like it could be people talking, it could be like I could almost make like a fake universe of things happening in an audio like world, and you would never know the difference. You'd be like, oh wow, like I wonder where he was, and then I tell you, and it's like, wait, you just put a bunch of samples together and made it sound like, you know, I was outside or something.
Yeah. Do you ever, when you're outside, do you ever hear something and like try and record it and get a sample of it?
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, I've always wanted to be like a Foley artist.
Oh, hell yeah.
So like, if you know what those are, they're the guys that like make all the sounds for movies.
Yeah.
And, you know.
A job that I'm very glad with the level of post-production that I work in. I feel like I've found the right spot because I don't have to fuck with sound, right? Which is why I've kind of liked music videos. Because I, you know, like used to play some music and you know, it's an art form that I really like. I like being able to work with another artist on something. But even with like working as a colorist on like, you know, films or shows and shit like that, like, I'm so glad I don't have to fuck with sound. It's just one of those things that's like, there's so much there that can go wrong, or that you can like not pick up properly, or that like you can fuck up in post. Like there's so many levels to which things can go awry, in which there's so many levels of like nuance to be done, on top of like the art form of fucking making sound for a movie. Like,
dude,
have you ever thought about doing any Foley art shit? We should do, if we fucking We should have you do some Foley art for
I could easily do
for
Foley
Heatseeker.
art. It's so easy because I practice it all the time. Like I instantaneously could record something on my mic. It's a condenser mic, so you know.
Hell yeah.
It's definitely made for it. I could always make sound. I do make sounds, honest to God. I mean, I make sounds with my mouth and I put it on there.
Do you do anything with it?
Yeah.
Do you use them in like tracks?
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Dude, but back to your nuances, like on sound, for real. That is no joke. Like, appreciate your engineers.
100%. And bad sound can fuck something up so bad. Like, it can ruin a production if you like fuck your sound up, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm sure the same way with you can have somebody spitting crazy bars over something, but if it sounds like ass, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a standard for how loud music should be. And that's why it's called mastering a track. You're making it sound amazing. I mean, it's all you're really doing is raising the volume, but so it doesn't clip. But I mean, past that point, I mean, there's nothing else you can do. Systems today only can handle a certain range of frequency. That's why sounds clip when they hit a certain threshold. The system can't handle it anymore. So until we upgrade, it's always going to be a standard.
Yep.
You know, so it's kind of like going from oil to electric.
Yep. Well, no, it's similar in color grading, right? I kind of think of color grading as like the mixing and mastering of like video. Because a lot of the process is you've got something in a certain color space and it needs to go to like a Rec 709 display is like what most things are going to be. That's what your computer monitor is. And it can only take it can only reproduce a very limited amount of colors. But your camera sensor is capturing like fucking billions. Yeah. And so you have to pick, I forget, I did the math at some point. But it was something of like, you have 80 pounds of sand, but you've only got a 1 pound bag and you need to pick out which pieces of sand you want to put in that bag to make the best product.
Yeah.
And I guess in reality, it would probably be far more complicated than that makes it sound. I would much rather color grade something than pick a pound of sand out grain by grain. So maybe that's a bad comparison, but anyway. But yeah, there's the kind of equivalent of like the things only being able to get so loud is like most monitors can, only display that range of colors. And now there's like HDR monitors, which the only reason that monitor is like that is because just for the longest time, we couldn't get diodes to be brighter than that. Like we just couldn't figure it out. And then we did, and now we've got HDR monitors, but like the majority of the shit everybody's using is not like, most people are still using standard like Rec 709 stuff.
Dude, it's like that in everything. I mean, it is when you really like, I work in the trades, right? That's my real job. Like I'm a specialist in the trades and I work with the same shit that they were working with 200 years ago.
Yep.
By hand doing custom shit and you make it look amazing. And you're like, well, how do you recreate, or what company, or what machine made that? I'm like, no machine made that. Like, we made that by hand.
Yeah,
like,
people made that.
People make that, and it's all done. I mean, the applications are better because we've increased technology, but it's the same thing in everything. Until we technologically advance to a point to where, we go from having what we have to the next best thing. There's just a standard that we all live by, and it's all rebranded and made to look flashy and new, but it's all the same.
Yep.
It's all the same.
I guess back to the weird ethereal soundscape stuff. I guess first of all, have you ever, or would you consider like releasing any of that under like releasing an album of just weird shit that you've made? I'm mostly out of curiosity if you're thinking about dropping that. Do you have like an album worth of like weird fucking soundscape shit you just toss out there?
Maybe, probably. I could.
One of these days.
I do want to release just a pure, just soundtrack album, like really good songs, obviously, but just nobody on them. It's just songs.
Is there anything that you're doing differently when you're making a beat for an artist to leave room for the artist, and what are the differences in your approach when you're doing that?
When you're making a song for an artist, there's a lot of like levels of frequencies that you kind of want to leave out. Like you don't want to muddy up your bottom end, so like I like to keep my basses, not, I mean, hitting, but they're not taking up so much headroom in your mix that when you add your vocals and stuff, you still get that good deep low end on your vocal. You get all that clarity in the 3 to 5 and the 10 to 16K range. You don't want to have a whole lot of muddy sounds in there, because if you're making a song, like for instance EDM songs, they're busy. You couldn't put a vocalist on there. It would just get lost in there. So you kind of got to structure your songs like that. So leave room, not too many instruments. Percussion's different. You can have a lot of percussion in a song and it not cause a whole lot of shit.
Yeah, it doesn't clash with the
it
vocal
doesn't
track
really
as
clash
much.
with anything. And I mean, honestly, there's ways to do different things. So, but yeah, you got to think like there's a room and you can only fill it with so much. That's how you got to think about it. And that's how music is made. You fill it with all this stuff and it's all carefully placed in places. So when it comes back to you in the center, it's all just this one glorious thing.
Yep.
So that is it. That is what it is.
And then so when you're making something that you're not going to have a vocal track on, right? Like you've got that room, you've got that extra space in the corner of the room or whatever to put whatever you want there. How are you thinking about what you're going to put there? Like, do you have like certain instrumentation or certain things that you'll use to kind of fill up that space? Or what does your, do you think about that, I guess, any differently than you do the rest of the track?
Yeah. Like if I feel like the track is lacking something, I'll throw something in there and it might not be something that you hear the whole song or whatever. It's not like a counter melody or anything like that, but yeah, I'll put random sounds in there to kind of like give it like a different feel and it keeps your brain wondering.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the brain's predictive. You kind of got to make your music be not predictive, but predictive.
Yeah.
It's really hard. It's really hard when you think about it, because it's like you gotta make music. If you want to do this shit for real, you want it to sell. It's a business. It's also, you also want it to be its own thing. So you want your product to be very unique, be repetitive and catchy, while also being different.
Yeah.
And non-predictive. It is like a quantum entanglement butt fuck, dude. It is insane. And at the end of the day, when you finish it and you're all looking at it and you're like, damn. And you're like, this shit's it's hitting on all levels. You're like, we just did some shit. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Is that the only way you can tell, is by like taking a step back and looking at it? If you've hit that balance,
you finish the song. Yes. Like I'm done recording my artists. I'm mixed, mastered, everything. And I'm sitting back on that wall with them and we're all just sitting there banging heads. And you look around, it's always at that level. And you're like, damn, like, and then like with me, like I got to the point where I was like, damn, I'm pumping this out all the time. Like I've got it. I made it. I made it to that point. Like I've got real artists, big artists working with me. Obviously the sound's there.
Yeah.
Obviously it's there. It's a crazy experience, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And when you really think about everything and how it all is, it's wild.
So how are you balancing, like, because like you said, you know, you're able to like pump it out and you're able to like crank beats out. How do you balance, like you said earlier, right? Not getting in a rut, not avoiding taking risks, but then where do you draw the line between, oh, now maybe I've gone a little bit too far away from that balance that you're looking for, where like maybe it's not catchy anymore. Or it's not like, you know what I mean?
I mean, if it feels weird, it's probably too weird for mainstream.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Like if you're not hearing it every day on the radio or if you're not, you know, hearing it on Spotify or whatever, and it's not what a lot of people, like, for example, like shit that like Yeet is doing wouldn't have been big fucking, I don't know, 5 years ago. You know, 10 or damn, has it been almost 10 years? What, 8-9 years ago? Like, what was it? 2 Chainz, Kendrick Lamar, and all that shit. Like, it was a totally different vibe. Like, so yeah, like things evolve so rapidly. Like, you kind of just, you understand what the flow is with how people, like, what people are listening to, with where the general direction of music is going. Kind of like, you kind of like got to read the paradigm shift. But basically, yeah. But you know, I always like, I like being different though. So like I'll play off of that. So like I get the idea, like, yeah, this is like Yeet's big or something. Like I've been making a lot of rage beats because rage is big. Trippy Red's big. Like, but I'll play off those sounds. You know, and then you go off of those and then you start working your way into something that sounds even crazier but good. Like, you know, that's good. And like, especially when the art, like you got 5 artists in the same room and they all got clout, like they all got their own different sounds and they're all saying the same thing, like, this is insanely good. You know, that's just natural humans saying, damn, this is cool, this is good. You know, it's going to bump on in anybody's like car, house. Everybody's gonna be like, I like this. You know?
So that's the moment you're looking for, is being in the room with the artist and everybody.
Absolutely, man. Like, that's where the creativity sparks again. Because, like, you know, when people are in the room and they're hearing it and they're like, damn, this is really good, like, this is crazy, like, you know, it hypes you up. You know, it gets those creative juices flowing. When you're sitting here all by yourself and you're like pressing the keys and you're like, it's like a fart noise or something. And it's like, dude, it's just, it's boring. It sucks the life out of me sometimes, but sometimes I'll be in a different mood. I'll want to be alone so I can create. It just really depends.
Do you find that there's a different style of beat that you'll make when you're alone versus with other people? Or
absolutely. Like, when I'm alone, I'll make like 5 random beats, and they'll all be at different BPMs. They'll all be at different kinds of melodies and different keys and majors and minors or sharps or flats or whatever. And lately I've been really composing my beats to where, like, I've been using a lot of like my basses will be in root notes of the harmony and the melody, and then my percussion will also be in root notes of my or the melody and things of that nature. And it really gives a shit ton of life to the beat. It's kind of a different thing that I've been approaching just by myself, learn, like an out there thought, you know, like an idea going into it. And I've learned after cross-examining and doing all that other stuff, it's really helped out.
How do you analyze your own stuff? Like, when you make those 5 random beats, like, do you like take a break and come back to them and listen to them all with fresh ears? Or like, what's your, when you say like when you're cross-examining stuff, like what's that process like?
So like, I'll listen to Like my beats from previous. Like I catalog everything that I've done in consecutive order.
Is it just by like date?
Date.
Is there no
Everything
other?
is by date.
Yeah.
So I can go back in time and see what I was doing 2 years ago. And I compare that, or I compare what I was doing 6 months ago. And if it sounds better, if it's just if it's just greater, you know, in quality, the sound is wider and all that stuff, you know, I can tell that I'm going in the right direction. You know what I mean? So that's how I do it.
Gotcha. Okay. And then, so when you were talking about, you know, making like styles of beats kind of influenced by other musicians, like who, or I guess first, like who are some of your influences lately? Like who are you listening to lately that you're hearing sounds that you like?
TV shows. No, but seriously, honest to God, I really haven't been listening to a whole lot of music
Really?
lately. Yeah, like for the past 6 months.
Interesting. Why do you think that is?
I've been making music for the last 6 months, and honest to God, the shit that we're making just sounds better than what I'm hearing.
Hell yeah. That's how you know you're going in the right direction then, huh?
Yeah. Like, I prefer to sit in my car and listen to the 20 tracks I made last week than I do. I make so much with so many different artists that I don't need Spotify anymore.
Yeah, you just got a catalog.
I kind of got and I can change it. That's the thing. That's crazy, because I can actually like change it. People can't. Not your average human can go in their car and change their fucking Taylor Swift song or whatever the fuck they're listening to, you know? Like, I'm listening to my catalog of things that people are going to release on their own platform and do their own thing with. But if I want to, I can change the fucking song for myself. You know what I mean? It's just cool shit, man.
That's cool. Okay. Yeah, I feel like I've run dry on my well of questions. Not that, I mean, we couldn't continue to get into the weeds of stuff, but I think I've kind of hit everything I wanted to run through. Is there anything you want to talk about? Anything you're working on lately that maybe we didn't touch on?
I mean,
other than the fact that we're going to get you in to do some Foley work for some sort of fucking Heat Seeker production.
Yes, sir. The Foley artist is here.
Hell yeah.
Foley man. Honestly, I just finished a bunch of shit. I'm trying to start. Well, I've already started 3 new albums, basically.
Hell yeah.
I mean, we already have. So, Pac's supposed to release an album soon. Shows is releasing his album on May 13th. Ray John.
Hell yeah.
And then I'm doing this small thing with Joe and Basha. And then I do recordings for all these different artists. Like, it's just, there's so much. I don't even know. It's just
all right. And then where, I guess give the plug. Where can people who may be listening to this, where can they find you? Where can they, if they want a beat by Jug, where can they hit you up?
As of right now, I'm in the works of trying to make a website, but you can find me at Jug Makes Music, all one word, at Instagram. And I don't have a Twitter or anything like that, or any of that other bullshit. So
hell yeah.
Other than that, you can find me on Instagram. You can follow me.
Do you know what do you have a domain for the website yet?
No, because I don't know. So my idea is I want to start a label, like a actual like company for this, and I want the website to be the label. More for the label.
Yeah. More for the label, less for you.
Just me, but I want the website. You know, the website will be on my Instagram. You know. or in my link tree.
Mm-hmm.
And, I want that to be directed to that, the label website. And then the label website will have options like beats and
Gotcha.
merch. And, you want to sign up and be a artist or, book an appointment for mixing, mastering, whatever it is. I want it to be an all-in-one place where people can do anything and everything.
Hell yeah. Now we'll have to we'll chat off air about some website shit too. But awesome, Jug. Thank you, man. This has been a fucking blast.
I appreciate it, Riley. Thank you.
Awesome. Wow, good job. You made it to the end. Thank you for listening this far into this podcast. I'm sure that's good for my engagement metrics or whatever the algorithm overlords are interested in. Check out the description for any show notes, links to the information about the guest or myself and this podcast. And yeah, that's it. Am I done recording these intros and outros? I think I am. And yeah, that's it. I don't really know what else to say, so just gonna leave it here.